This week, we talk about the exciting things we are nerding out about. We talk about all the rumors and news happening with Marvel and DC, and we keep on trucking down the witch's road with Agatha Harkness. Welcome to the Infinite Taylorverse. Warning.
Red alert.
Ay, 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 ay!
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger!
That's the emergency alert. This episode is full of spoilers for some of the latest and greatest nerdy movies and shows.
Spoilers.
Listener discretion is advised. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Infinite Taylorverse podcast. I'm Billy Taylor.
And I'm Taylor Oxner.
And this week, we are here to talk to you guys about the latest things happening out there in the pop culture universe. But before we jump into any of that, Taylor, what have you been nerding out about this week, man?
This week I saw this movie called Memories. Have you ever seen it? It's an anime.
I don't
Like an
think
old one from like the 90s.
I don't think I have.
Okay. Well, it's like one of those that's like separated into different vignettes. It's like an hour and a half, and for the first hour is one, and then the second one's like 40 minutes, and then the last one's like the last chunk of time. So it's like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, it's animated beautifully. It's 3 different stories, of course. Each one's animated a little bit differently. Yeah, it's not available in English. So there's that.
Yeah.
So it came with a 2-pack of Metropolis. Have you ever seen Metropolis?
Yes.
Okay. The anime one version?
Yes.
Okay. So it came with a copy of that with it, and there's no English dub, so you definitely got to pay attention. Which is sometimes good with movies, sometimes it's fine, but like there's a lot of like not talking in these too, where the animation just kind of does the work. So you have to really have patience with this. So like don't be in like an antsy mood when you sit down to watch it, or don't, you know what I mean? Like put your phone down.
Yeah.
It's very visual, which it should be. It's an animated movie, but you know what I'm saying. I would give it like a 7 out of 10.
Nice. Sounds like a good watch. Let's see. I'm trying to think. For me, I feel like I have 2 this week. One is something that happened, and one something that's about to happen. So over the weekend, we had family in town, and we were, doing stuff with those guys. And Elite Comics had their Halloween free comic book day. So I went over there and got a few of their books. It's not as big as, the typical free comic book day, where there's so many books to choose from. This one is a much smaller free comic book day, but they still have some cool titles. There were a bunch of Batman and Marvel and all kinds of stuff, and grabbed some of those. But he also had out just a bunch of boxes. Every book was just a quarter, and all the money went towards the Children's Mercy Toy Drive that they do. And I thumbed through for a minute because I'm not the biggest comic collector. I collect, more modern stuff that I really like. But I was just thumbing through these books to see what was there. I grabbed a few that I thought had cool covers. I paid $5. I got a handful of books that were 25 cents. I went home and I was adding them to my app, just again, not knowing a bunch about these books. And one of them, I got it because of the cover, but it's Warlock and the Infinity Watch, number 9. And in my app, it says that's the first appearance of Gamora. And I didn't know that getting it. I got it because I thought the cover was cool. And another one that I scanned was Captain America number 275. Again, 25 cents. Got it because the cover was cool. And my app said that's the first appearance of Baron Zemo.
That is wild. And it's not a reprint or a Marvel Tales or anything?
No, it's the direct edition. And
That's
again,
nuts.
I'm not some big crazy collector. I just got a few books that I thought the covers were cool and they're in
Oh,
good
good
shape.
for you.
Yeah. And so I was kind of nerding out about that. Like, oh, cool. I'm not a comic guy. I love comics and I read comics and I get modern comics, but I don't know. It gave me that feeling like comic hunters probably get like, ooh, what cool finds,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's kind of how it starts. You start getting, it's kind of nutty. It's how that works. Like Alpha Flight's now for me. Like you know that I've been collecting Alpha Flight for like what a year,
Yes.
probably almost 2 years. I'm up to I don't know, almost 50 issues now already.
Oh,
And I
nice.
started, and I have my longest run right now is only like 2 issues.
Yeah.
So they're like all over the place. But I have the first 2 issues. So it's funny the gaps I have are like number 3, number 7, good stuff like that, almost all the way down. It's kind of funny.
Man, having a goal like that probably makes going to cons and stuff fun, thumbing through those long boxes.
It gives you goals. So
Yeah.
like what I do is for a while now I've collected by I have a decent amount of this. I started reading them and I'm like I want to fill in these gaps for my kid that when he's old enough he doesn't have to come up with headcanon,
Yeah.
which like is a fun thing, but it also is, one of those things.
Right. It's like frustrating.
Yeah.
First world
So
frustrating.
Oh, complete first world frustrating. But it's just been a goal of mine. So what I decided to do was I was like, you know what? If I'm just pointing and shooting and just grabbing, I'm never gonna get like stuff done. So what I started doing was I started picking very specific runs of books. So like West Coast Avengers, Alpha Flight. I was doing Uncanny X-Men for a while and got to a point where I had like 400 something books.
Oh,
And
nice.
then they started getting really expensive.
Yeah.
I had gotten to that point because I had caught up with the most current, and then I had gone back and like collected all the really crap stuff from like the early 2000s, and then the really cool stuff from the early 2000s, and then all of a sudden I'm like going backwards, like way backwards, and I'm in like I got a lot of the 90s stuff done, and then the 80s stuff started getting really expensive.
Yeah.
80s and 70s stuff, yeah. But we're getting there still, little by little, chipping it away.
Nice. Yeah, it always feels
Yeah, I
good
think,
anytime you're able to just whatever you're looking for, whether it's Funkos, action figures, comics, anything. It just feels so good when you've put a piece in there.
yeah, it's a hunt. It's like it's a hunt for a puzzle too, a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, my Uncanny X-Men run for Volume 1 is 256 issues.
Oh, nice.
I'm missing still a good amount. Goodness gracious. Yeah, my oldest one is, let's see, 1980 is my oldest.
Yeah.
139.
Yeah, that's awesome. If I was going to collect a whole run of something, it wouldn't even be an older comic, it's a modern comic, but I would love to have every issue of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic that came out, starting with right before they led up to the Shattered Grid and then all the post Shattered Grid stuff.
Where are you at with what do you have of those?
I don't own a bunch of those. I've
I
read
have
them
one.
all from trade paperbacks from like the library and stuff, but I don't own a bunch of them. I have a few that I saw the covers like, oop, gotta have it, but I don't really have a bunch of them at all, honestly.
So I have 0 through 7, and then I have 11, 13, 16, 21, 23, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31.
Nice.
That's like most of Shattered Grid, and then also I have the Billy cover
Oh,
for
nice.
number 0 with him, because like I've had all the covers where them holding their helmets.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I got the Billy one. I didn't want the Billy one though. To be fair, I know you would have wanted the Billy one.
To be fair, I
I
would have
wanted a
wanted all
different
of
one.
them.
I have the annual,
Oh,
the
nice.
the the first annual, I guess. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers anniversary special, and then Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Pink
Oh,
1 through
nice.
6, and then the free comic book day one they put out for the grid, right?
Yes.
Free comic book day sucks in my app because that's what it starts with
Right,
instead
yeah.
of going. So there's this long list of free comic book day, and you gotta like look at the picture.
Yeah.
It's super annoying. And it's like only like that there.
Oh, my other thing that I'm nerding out about. So, long story short, so any of you guys who've listened to us for any amount of time, you have to have picked up that my favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future. The entire trilogy, not just the first one. I gotta watch all three of them. Every summer, my kids and my wife and I, we sit down at some point and watch those movies. Usually we'll watch the first one one day, the second one the next, the third one the next. I think one time we sat down and watched just all three of them in one day, but man, love it so much. It's been true since I was about 8. I've probably watched the whole trilogy once a year since I was about 8 or 9. Anyway, a friend of mine who also does a podcast, you guys might remember way back from our first year doing this when Taylor and his wife had their beautiful baby boy, Miles. And there was about 3 or 4 weeks where a different co host kind of popped in. I just kind of shot my shot with a friend of mine who's done this like official, really cool podcast for years, listened to him for years, thinking, he might say yeah, he might say nothing. Like, who knows? And he came back with, yeah, sure, I'd love to help out. And so he hopped on one week, and it was my friend Ben Beck. And I've been on his a couple times since then. And anyway, long story short, we both share a love of this movie. So a couple of months ago, he messaged me like, hey, I'm going to be at Rhode Island Comic Con working. The company I work with is putting this on, and the cast of Back to the Future is going to be there. And at this point, they weren't all announced. My main question was, is Michael J. Fox going to be there? And he let me know he was. And once I found that out, it instantly became a goal. Like, I've got to get myself there. I have to get there. I told my wife, my grandma, like everyone that's known how much this movie means to me, hey, this is happening. This could be birthday, Father's Day, Christmas, whatever, all rolled up into one, but I've got to get there. It's going to be awesome. So, long story short, Rhode Island Comic Con is this week. While you guys are listening to this, I'm probably on a plane flying there right now from Kansas City, and I'm going to get to meet Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Tom Wilson, and Michael J. Fox. So that's, Doc and the mom and Marty and Biff. And the principal, James Tolkien, was going to be there, but he's pretty old. He's 96, I believe. And he kind of last minute had to cancel that he's not going to be there. But that's a bummer. But man, I still get to meet Doc and Marty and Lorraine and Biff. I'm gonna be speechless. I've done so many of these cons, meeting so many of these famous people throughout the years, and I'm not that shy. I am not a shy person. But when I met Stan Lee back in 2015 or 16, whenever he was in Kansas City, my brain literally shut off. The hamster stopped running in the wheel. And all I could get out was, thank you so much for everything. Literally, my brain stopped, and I'm surprised I got that one sentence out. I hope it's not the same when I get to meet these people that I've looked up to since I was a small kid, especially Michael J. Fox. But I get to meet these guys. I'm bringing some Funko Pops to get signed. I can't believe it. It's happening. And again, it's happening right now this weekend. I'm so excited.
You feeling overwhelmed yet?
A little bit. Because again, it happens to be their 40th anniversary reunion coming up, and that's kind of the main attraction of this event. But it's also a typical Comic Con, so there's a ton of other crazy cool people going to be there. I will not read you guys the whole list because I've never seen a list this crazy for a convention, outside of San Diego Comic Con. But the other ones that I'm kind of freaking out about that I want to meet, there's a ton of My Hero Academia people going to be there that my kids and I are loving right now. So I've already met the voice of Deku and the voice of Mineta, but I'm also going to get to meet J. Michael Tatum, who's the voice of Ida, and Lucy Christian, who's the voice of Uraraka, and Brandon McInnes, who's the voice of Mr. Night-Eye. And I'm bringing those Funko Pops to get signed. Man, Richard Horvitz, he's the voice of 8,000 characters, but to me, he's the original voice of Alpha 5. And I'm so excited to bring my Alpha 5 pop and have him sign it. And then I'm going to save the other side of the plastic for when I eventually get to meet our buddy Sandy Sumner, who was inside the suit of Alpha 5. But I'm excited. He's going to be there. She-Hulk, Tatiana Maslany, she is going to be there. That one's got me freaked out a little bit too. She's going to be cool to meet. And Patty Guggenheim, who also played Madison, the character Madison on She-Hulk, she's going to be there too. And I happen to have her Funko Pop too. Let's see, anyone who watched Avatar, The Last Airbender, and then Legend of Korra, Janet Varney, who is Korra, is going to be there. That one's awesome. Gosh. D. Bradley Baker, I've already met him. He was in Kansas City. We had a whole episode of this podcast devoted to him a year or two ago, but I didn't get anything signed. I was not thinking. I didn't bring my, clone Funko Pops or anything, but I'm going to bring my Captain Rex Funko Pop and have him sign that. And, there was two more that I'm like, I got to meet these guys. Did you ever watch Reno 911 back in the day?
Yeah, I love that show.
So Tom Lennon, who plays Officer Dangle, he's going to be there.
Between him, oh yeah,
Him and
he's like the best character.
my favorites were him and Niecy Nash. Like, oh my gosh, I love her. But
You didn't like Nick Swardson's character?
oh gosh, him too. There's so many characters. Like, if you named them, I'd start remembering. So funny. Tom Lennon, he played Mixus Pitalik on the Supergirl CW series.
Oh yeah,
So there's no Funko Pop from that show, but I have a Mixus Pitalik Funko Pop from the comics, and I think I'm gonna have him sign it.
that'd be cool.
The last one that again, there's, gosh, easily 20, 30 more people that I'm not naming, but the last one that got me real excited, and she was a last minute ad. It's Jenna Frank. She's the daughter of Jason David Frank, and she still goes to these cons spreading his legacy, and keeping it going. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta go meet her too. Oh, this one's not a human being, but the little dog from Deadpool and Wolverine, Dogpool's gonna be there too.
Then that's a person to meet.
Right? I saw that they have this, pet safe ink pad, and you can bring your items or a photo or whatever, and they put her little paw on it and autograph with her paw. So I'm like, oh man, do I bring my dog pool Funko Pop and have them do that? I don't know. But yeah, this event's gonna be crazy. I still can't believe it's happening. If you can't tell, I'm nerding out just a little bit about it.
Yeah, I'm very pumped for you.
Dude, I'm going as a fan, not in this podcast capacity, but we all know while I'm there, I'm going to try to get some little tidbits to bring back for you listeners.
Hmm.
Well, hey, it's kind of a light news week, but let's go ahead and jump into the news. Again, Agatha All Along continues to be fantastic. This last episode, which was kind of themed about famous Hollywood character witches, it was really good. And Patty LaPone's character, it brings out the reasons she goes blank every now and again, and her brain just goes blank and seems to freeze. It explains all of that. It was really good. And Taylor and I were talking, pretty sure this week is the two-part finale. So next week or soon thereafter, we're going to be bringing you guys a whole episode devoted to Agatha. We feel like that's going to be super fun.
Yeah, and then we'll also get to talk about the differences between Agatha in the comics and Agatha in the show.
Yes. Agatha in the show, honestly, is a lot more fun.
Oh, way more fun. I mean, Agatha in the comic is fun in the whole idea of that she exists there,
Right.
and that's kind of kooky and fun, but she's not necessarily that person.
Right. And let's see. There's so many rumors going on out there right now, and there's a few official things going on. So I'm going to start with some official stuff. So Spider-Man 4 officially has been announced, not just, Tom Holland said something on a talk show or whatever. It's officially been announced, and it's going to premiere July 26th, 2026, which is only 2 months after Avengers Doomsday comes out. So we're going to get Avengers Doomsday, and 2 months later, we get Spider-Man 4. So that's kind of cool.
You think they'll tie into each other?
I hope so, especially, the whole Avengers Doomsday, the Tony Stark lookalike variant of Doctor Doom. That's got to mentally impact Peter a little bit.
I was joking. I think that that's completely on
Right.
purpose. I think that's like a Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revelations, where they released only like a couple months between each other,
That seems right.
if I remember correctly. And so is Harry Potter Deathly Hallows. Well, if I remember correctly, it's not the only time they've done.
Yeah. Ooh, let's see another official announcement. Kristen Ritter has officially announced that she will be in season 2 of Daredevil Born Again as Jessica Jones. So we're getting her back. And oh, you and I both saw this. Earlier this week, we saw the first images of Nick Cage in costume as Spider-Man Noir.
So my response to the costume was I felt like he looked like his head was in DK mode.
Yes.
Which I have the same problem with like a lot of these suits, especially on like the CW suits where their helmets don't look slim to the rest of their suit. They look bigger.
Yeah. To our younger
That's what
listeners, do you want to tell them what DK mode was?
Oh, yeah. So, DK mode, also known as Donkey Kong mode, would make your character's head really big and your knuckles and arms drag to the ground.
Yes.
By the way, we're talking about video games, if
Yes,
anyone
yes.
didn't know.
There were
Uh,
a lot of games had cheat codes where you could put the characters in DK mode.
yeah, and there was a lot of, I felt like, superhero movies or superhero TV shows in general who had that problem for a while there.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. So the whole Blade thing, we keep hearing, oh, it's on, oh, it's off. Oh, we lost this guy. Oh, it's off. Oh, it's on. Oh, it's
That
off.
movie's not happening. It's a psyop. It's not real.
Well, what I
Mahershala
read,
Ali Blade isn't real. He can't hurt you.
right. Well, you know what? This week I read that Marvel Studios announced that both Blade and Midnight Suns are suddenly on a fast track. And the new Blade is going to start filming in 2025, and it's going to lead into a Midnight Suns project. But the news article was it's because they finally locked down who's going to be the director. I do not remember, my bad, who they said it was going to be, but they made it sound like they finally locked it in. So I'm taking this with a grain of salt, though, because it's been locked in how many times?
Yeah, I just don't, like I said, it's just nightmare buns is what I'm going to call it until it's official.
Right? And the last couple things with Marvel are both rumors this week. There's a rumor floating around right now that Marvel has discussed an actual important role in the MCU with Billie Eilish. And I started thinking, well, who could Billie Eilish be? That's a prominent, important character.
Is it?
I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind right away for me.
Hold on, let me think. Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish. Oh my God, it's Kitty Pryde.
What if it is Kitty Pryde? Oh my gosh, you're right. We're eventually getting to that whole mutant saga. I can see it. I 100% can see it. That'd be
Who else could
crazy.
it be? There's Dazzler,
Yeah,
but Dazzler's not that important.
that is true. And I don't know if we've talked about it on here, but something I read a couple weeks ago is that Kitty Pryde will be an important part on the first team that we see when they do reboot the X-Men.
Yeah, I'll put money down that she's gonna be Kitty Pryde.
That's crazy. I was not even thinking of mutants whatsoever, so I'm glad you said that. Let's see, the other rumor, this one's just a rumor, and it makes sense if it's true, is there's going to be a Wiccan series, which is supposed to, he's on the hunt for his brother. So that makes sense. We've heard that rumor already. But with that, there's going to be a follow up Scarlet Witch movie. And both of those are what's going to lead into finally a Young Avengers project, which has not been announced if it's a movie or a Disney Plus show yet.
Well, I hope they give us a show because then they could do an episode per issue because there's only the original, like the Young Avengers run isn't that long.
Yeah. And a show, you know how movies have trouble trying to cram way too much into a movie when you're doing an ensemble? A show could do an episode per character and then end it with a bunch of episodes where they're teamed up. And it won't feel so crammed?
Yeah, well, I feel like we've gotten a lot of what we need for startup, so we wouldn't need all those individual episodes.
That's true.
Maybe like an episode with two of them a piece meeting,
Yeah,
or
but
just do it like the book.
that's true. Well, that is it with Marvel. There's not a ton with DC. Penguin continues to literally shock me every week at how good it is. This last episode was so crazy. Again, we're going to talk about this series when it is complete. We'll have a whole Penguin Batman type episode. Superman and Lois, episode 5 was so, so good. Pulled on all the heartstrings. Every week, I just want to punch Lex Luthor in the throat a little bit more. This week was no different. It was really touching with what happened with Doomsday at the end of this episode. It was so good. You guys need to go watch it. And the final thing with DC is there was this rumor floating around that Dua Lipa was going to play Zatanna in the new DCU. And this was gaining a ton of traction. But I think Threads, James Gunn came out and said, yeah, this isn't true.
That bums me out. That's cool. That
Yeah,
would have been kind of neat.
I could totally see it. She would have been perfect. It would be funny if something like that leads to her doing it. So he's not, lying, but it becomes true.
Yeah, but I'm sure he already has one of his James Gunn, because he's in that world with all the people from all the Whedon stuff too.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure he has about 15 actors he can pull from without even just picking up a phone.
Yep. Over with Star Wars, the main news this week has to do with comic books. There's a new comic book series coming out called Star Wars Legacy of Vader. It's going to be a mini series that dives into pretty much how Kylo Ren comes to be. We obviously know that he was Han and Leia's son. He turned to the dark side, but we don't really see that whole gap. And this comic book is going to fill in that gap. So
Oh,
I'm going to want to read it. It comes out February 5th, 2025. Issue number 1 does.
yeah, that does sound interesting, actually. I
And
want to
then
see the Knights, what the Knights of Ren are.
oh, yeah. You would think that would come up in this book, so hopefully it does,
Yeah, I'll have to wait till it either comes out in trade, just so I can get a full read of it, so I don't gotta wait.
right? Comics are just like shows sometimes. Like, man, I gotta wait
I
a whole nother
know.
month or a week or whatever.
Yeah, sometimes with the event books, I've done that before where I've waited till all of them have come out and then read the event.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, you might not be on top of everything when everyone else is, but that read is so much more smooth.
Oh, yeah.
And and you retain so much more from the issue before.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that, because sometimes those gaps between issues of the event books are agonizingly long.
And let's see. The Skeleton Crew, we mentioned last week. It premieres on December 3rd on Disney Plus. So we're finally going to get a little bit more Star Wars on the screen. And the last piece
Oh.
of news we have this week, they sent out the first image from the King of the Hill reboot. Did you have a chance to see it?
No, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be on Hulu pretty soon. And I say reboot, it's not a reboot, it's a continuation, and it's way in the future. Bobby is an adult and he's a chef, and the image they sent out was grown-up Bobby working at the restaurant he works at. And he's got his chef outfit and stuff on, and it's weird seeing him with stubble and he's taller and I don't know. I'm really excited because I loved that show so much.
I never got super into it. It's been one of those I've watched episodes and I've really liked it, but I've never you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what made me so into it was just how similar to people I knew in my real life those people were.
Oh, okay.
Growing up down in the South, man, I tell you what.
Yeah.
But hey, that's all the news this week. There's nothing really locally happening right now, but as things start coming up, we'll keep you guys posted. So as for us here at the Taylorverse, I've been Billy Taylor.
And I'm Taylor Oxner.
And come back next week, guys. Same Taylor time, same Taylor channel.
Bye, guys.
Bye.